we're in the same race, I guess, that everybody else is, which is what's the race for talent, and how do you identify not just data scientists, although they're really scarce resources, but analysts, engineers, even people within the business, I guess, within the merge teams and operations teams who can play those roles in the team within the squads that we operate. Developers, because we're in some of these cases we're building tools, but I think we've got a pretty good setup in terms of how we operate with cross-functional squads that we deploy, where we can bring like-minded individuals with different skill sets together. So you co-locate as much as you can do in a virtual world, at least. Engineers, analysts, data scientists, business people, designers, etc., and you create a squad with all of those different mix of skills.
Okay. Yep.
And that's worked wonders. But it is a race, I guess, to find the right talent, and especially the talent with the kind of, I guess, the power skills that you need. So, and it comes back to the analogy of the bridge, I guess. You need people who are prepared to kind of cross the bridge. You need people who are prepared to go and have the conversation with the business. You need people who don't want to spend their whole life in a dark room coding, but actually want to understand the problem and actually want to understand how to solve it. So I guess it's problem solving, communication, commerciality.
But it's interesting you use the phrase power skills, because I'll be completely honest, I had only really stumbled across this phrase in the last few weeks, and it seems to be gaining traction.
Yeah, I think...
What are they? I mean, to you?
I'm obviously fairly good at picking up bullshit, is probably part of it. but also, I think one of the challenges when you've got some, like, I guess, the split in the past has always been hard skills, which is, coding, technology, R, Python, SQL, whatever. And then you've got the soft skills that have been everything else wrapped around it.
Yes.
And it's almost been in some roles that the hard skills are the stuff that are really useful, and the softer skills are just the fluff, I guess, that kind of fits around it. But actually, I think if you rebadge it and rename it and call it something a little bit more kind of tangible, but also with a bit of oomph behind it,
and a bit more aspirational,
then it actually says these things are important. And if you look at anybody leading, at least in an analytics context, they're all people who can communicate really well. They're all people who can contextualize the analytics and put it in the context of the business and show them the value adds. So not just talking about the analytics, but also talking about the value it delivers to the business. So I think that to me is that's the big unlock for people wanting to accelerate their careers and grow in seniority is how do you articulate what you're doing, how it's adding value to the business.
And in terms of the shift that's happening in the market then, or this requirement to blend, let's call them hard skills for a moment, hard analytical skills or technical skills with the power skills, if that's a shift, then do sufficient number of individuals even exist? Are they going into the universities? Are the right personality types going into what are perceived to be deeply analytical courses?
I think that's probably the big challenge, is how do you identify, or even how do you partner with universities, and how do you partner earlier on potentially in the value chain as it were. So how do you find people when they're starting at the university careers? How do you make sure that organizations partner with universities to make sure the syllabus is kind of the right one? I think one of the hedges, I guess, is that by having cross-functional teams, you can put more analytical people with more business savvy people and partner them together. So it does give you the ability to kind of hedge your bets. But I think it is a challenge that businesses are going to increasingly face. So it is then going to be about how do we develop capability ourselves. We do have something like 20,000 in-store employees. Well, there must be people who work in our store network who've got a background in computer science or maths or software development. How do we bring those people through into our organization? How do we identify the right partners? How do we work with universities, etc., to make sure that we've got a conveyor belt almost of talent coming in? So rather than recruiting for specific roles, we recruit for capabilities and we build that strength in depth. And that's something we're working through at the moment and developing strategies for.
Now, another probably naive question, but I quite like these. In your capacity, are there limitations to your understanding of what is driving the whole piece, the whole data piece? Yeah. And if so, what are they?
I think I don't understand very much of what we do, if I'm perfectly honest. I think one of my... I'm
going to leave that in.
You can leave it in. One of my...
People will know already, presumably. So
100%, yeah. I think part of very, very definitely. So technology is moving at a pace which most people can't keep up with. So yeah, we're deploying some fairly, I guess, cutting edge technology with cloud and with GCP and a lot of other things. But there will be companies who've gone straight past that into whatever the next big thing is.
Yeah.
So that technology is one. I think skills and keeping up to date with even what the latest skills are that people have got. So when I started this, I coded in SQL, and that was pretty much it. That's the only coding language I know. And I was, you've got Python, you've got R, you've got a multitude of languages that I've never even heard of, Scala, etc. as well. So I think keeping up is tough, but I think the challenge is you don't actually need to. Again, if you distribute decision making across enough people, then you get the person who knows data science to focus on what the data science skills we need. You get the technology lead to understand what's the technology platform we need. We work really closely with partners like Google and Databricks and others who are right at the forefront of these things.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm pretty good at asking questions, I guess. And I know what I don't know, and I'm quite happy to go and ask somebody and find out. And again, I think it comes back to that modesty thing of I know that I don't know a lot of this stuff, but that's not what I'm here for. I'm not here to be an expert in these things. I'm here to connect the business and the analytics teams together.
It's quite good to have real world examples of the 40 use cases that you've distilled it down to. Is there one way you could bring it to life slightly in real terms as to what it entails and so, for example, if people were joining you, what they might be real world focused upon? Yeah,
so I guess the biggest single thing we're working on at the moment, and we're in the early kind of, I guess, discovery stages of this, is how do we optimize our promotional calendar? So we've got two brands. So we've got Dan's and BWS. We've got 20,000 products roughly that could be promoted or not at any point in time.
Yeah, wow.
If you try to say, well, how do I optimize that calendar across the year? It's about 1 trillion decisions a week to say, okay, well, how do I decide whether Corona's on offer in this brand for what period of time or what offer depth, etc.
Yeah, okay.
And 1 trillion decisions
are people drinking Corona again, are they?
Maybe a bad example. Yeah. And it takes, I guess, more than a couple of spreadsheets and a calculator to calculate 20 trillion different decisions.
Yeah, sure.
And it's well beyond, the complexity of most people to calculate. So we're looking at how we optimize that calendar across the year. And you can optimize for multiple different things. You optimize for sales, you can optimize for footfall, you can optimize for margin, you can optimize for profit.
Weather, all sorts of things.
Exactly. Yeah. And all of those things will come into play. So that's, I guess, one of the core kind of use cases we're looking at. And this is where we talk about, there's almost infinite, it's almost an infinite game. There's almost infinite possibilities of what you can do with the data you've got. And that's our tagline and our mission is around infinite possibilities, because there's almost an infinite number of use cases, an infinite amount of data, not an infinite amount of value, because there's a tap out on that at some point. But there's a lot of opportunity that we can explore, and we're only really scratching the surface of it.
So if we have listeners, viewers who are starting a transformation journey, midway through one, contemplating, what would be your advice around embarking on that transformation journey?
Yeah, so I think you can call it luck or you can call it positioning, whatever you want. I think we've been quite fortunate, shall we say, then, in that sponsorship of what we're trying to achieve comes right from the top. So we've already touched on that earlier, is that it's coming from the CEO down.
Yes,
but even when we started this journey 2 or 3 years ago, where there was probably a little bit less of that, the key thing was just start, right? So when we started the personalization journey, we started with a team of 4 people in a corner in Dan Murphy's, and everything we did, we showed value along the way. And some of that was actual dollars value, some of it was response rates improving, some of it was customer satisfaction improving. So how do you measure things are working, and then kind of things snowball from there. There's always a point though at which it gets hard as well. So transformation by its nature is hard, and I think the preferred state of most companies and people is inertia, and to kind of do what they've done and kind of carry on doing that. So you do come up across at least passive resistance, if not forceful resistance. So you have to just keep going, I think. So start and keep going are probably the 2 things. And that's where I guess the resilience and mental health thing comes in again, is you kind of occasionally, if you're in transformation roles, you have to keep going even if other people are trying to pull you back. And I think that's where the mental kind of toughness, resilience, and ability to adapt actually comes in pretty well.